Greetings, I'm Sean Bagshaw, a landscape photographer and photography educator from Ashland, Oregon. This class is all about helping you understand how Lightroom Classic catalogs work and how to manage your image collection using the library module. Lightroom Classic is a complete imaging tool for photographers, and it can do much more than just develop images. The Develop module is for adjusting images, but Lightroom Classic also features map, book, slideshow, print, and web modules. And the library module is the main one we're going to be working with in this class. With a well-executed library system, I'm able to search through over 140,000 images and find the exact one I'm looking for in seconds. However, understanding how Lightroom Classic catalogs and the library module work can admittedly be confusing until you get the hang of it. But that's why I'm here, to help you better get the hang of it. So let's dive right in. To really get comfortable with Lightroom Classic, you have to understand how the catalog system works. I think the key lies in the name catalog. If we go to the Amazon website, for example, we're looking at a catalog of the items they sell, but not the actual items themselves. We can search and filter the items in the catalog to find what we want and do a bunch of other things like put stuff in our shopping cart. The actual items are located somewhere else in a warehouse. But every item we see in the catalog on the website references to an actual item in that warehouse. Another example for those of us old enough to remember is an actual book library. The card catalog, which these days is actually probably on a computer, not on actual cards anymore. The card catalog tells us some information about each book and helps us locate the actual books where they live on a shelf somewhere in the building. The Lightroom Classic catalog is similar to a shopping catalog or a book library catalog in that it contains some basic information about each of our images, such as a preview of what it looks like, metadata, and adjustment instructions, but the actual image files are not in the catalog. Like Amazon or a book library, they're stored in a different location on your computer. The image previews in the Lightroom catalog are linked to the actual images in our computer, which are in folders on a hard drive, just like they always have been. To carry the Amazon analogy a step further, the easiest way to find an item is to look it up in their web catalog. You could technically drive to the warehouse, I guess, and go inside and find the actual item on the shelf somewhere, but that's a lot of extra work and you might mess up their accounting system, not to mention get arrested for breaking and entering. It's better just to find it on the website catalog, order it, and let them send it to you. Similarly, once you've created a Lightroom catalog, you can still use your computer's Explorer or Finder to go to the location on the hard drive and find the folder to access your actual images there. But it's faster and easier to find it in Lightroom and manage it from there. And this allows Lightroom's information about the image to also remain accurate. So the Amazon catalog is on the website. A book library catalog back in the day was kept in sets of small wooden drawers in a big cabinet at the front of the library. And the Lightroom Classic catalog is contained in a .lrcat or Lightroom catalog file on your computer. If you're using Lightroom Classic for the first time, then you don't have a catalog yet, and Lightroom will prompt you to create one. The catalog only contains images that you've added to it. This means that if you have images on your computer that you have not added to the Lightroom catalog, they'll not show up in Lightroom until you do. But when you're adding brand new images from your camera, Lightroom can save the actual images from your camera to your computer and also add them into the catalog at the same time. So as long as you import from your memory card using Lightroom, then all new images will be added to the catalog as you go forward. The Lightroom catalog basically mirrors how you have your images stored on your computer. If your images are located on a single hard drive in well-organized and named folders, then your Lightroom catalog will have that same folder organization. This is what my image folders on my computer look like, and that's also how they look in Lightroom. If your images are all over the place, in disorganized and mislabeled folders, and spread out across multiple hard drives, then your Lightroom catalog will be a mirror of that. If that's the case for you, then Lightroom can also be a great tool for moving, consolidating, organizing, and labeling your image folders so that they're more organized. We'll come back to how you can go about doing that a little later. So I think that's my best job of explaining what a Lightroom catalog is. If it isn't quite clear yet, don't worry. As we progress, it should become even more clear. As we already know, you don't see images in Lightroom until you've added or imported them into your catalog. There are two main types of image imports. One is to add images that are already on your computer to your catalog, and the other is to download new images from your camera onto your computer and add them to the catalog at the same time. From the library module, you add images to the catalog by clicking Import. This opens the import window. The flow of the import window is from the left to the right. Starting on the left, we choose a source, or where the images will be added to the catalog from. Let's start with the situation where images are already on my computer but not in my catalog, so I just want to add them to my catalog. For example, if I was making my catalog for the very first time, I would want to go to my D or data drive and find my main photo collection and add that to my catalog. All I would need to do is select that main photo collection folder and make sure that I had checked include subfolders so that it would find all the images in all the various image folders that are inside that main folder. I have a lot of images, so it'd take a long time to do this, but eventually it would get the job done. All of those folders and images are actually already in my catalog, so I'm not going to do that. However, on the D drive of my computer, I do have a folder of images called Bio Photos that is not in my catalog. So I'll select that one. Once you've selected a source on the left, then you move to the middle. In this window, we can see the images that are in that folder. If I want to add them all, I leave them all checked. I can uncheck any that I don't want to add, or I can uncheck them all and just check the ones that I do want to add. I can use the Shift key to select groups of images, and I can hold down Control or Command on a Mac to also select individual images. And then when I check or uncheck, the entire group gets selected or unselected. And once I've decided which images to add, in this case, all of them, the next job is to decide how to add them to the catalog. At the very top, we have four choices: copy as DNG, copy, move, or add. Since these images are already on my computer in the location where I want them, I don't want to copy them or move them. I just want to add them to the catalog from where they already are, so I'll just choose Add. Now we move over to the right side where we have a few more choices about how to add the images to my catalog. Under File Handling, we can choose the size of the previews that Lightroom will generate on import. Minimal previews will go the fastest and take up the least amount of space, but then Lightroom will have to take some time to generate larger previews later on when you start viewing them. One-to-one or full-size previews take the longest to generate on import and will also take up more space, but viewing and zooming in on images later will be really fast. I build standard previews for a compromise between the two. Below that, you have some other choices. Smart previews take up quite a bit of space, but provide some extra functionality. I'm guessing that another one of the classes in the Lightroom Summit covers smart previews if you want to know more about those. I'll just say that I don't personally create smart previews when I import. If I need them, I can always create them later in the main part of Lightroom. If you check Don't Import Suspected Duplicates, this keeps you from adding the same images to your catalog multiple times. If you want Lightroom to also create backup copies of your images to a different drive, then you can check this box. This only works when you're copying or moving images, but not when you're just adding images that are already there. This checkbox also allows you to add the images into a Lightroom collection on import if you want to. We'll be looking more at collections a little bit later. Under Apply during import, you can apply developing presets, metadata presets, and keywords to the image on import if you want. I've created a preset for sharpening and chromatic aberration removal that I add to all of my raw images as I import them. These are all JPEG copies of master files, so I wouldn't use that here. I also have a metadata preset that adds all of my copyright and contact info to my images on import, and you can create new metadata presets right here. If there were any keywords that applied to all of the images that were being imported, you could enter those here. When the right column is all set up how I want it, then I click Import, and that folder of images gets added to my catalog. So there's that biophotos folder added to my folders in the catalog. There are all those images added in the catalog. And we can see right here, the previous import, the import that we just did, imported 9 photos. So that's what it looks like to add images to your catalog that were already on your computer. Now let's look at an example of importing new images from a flash card or a camera. If my camera or a flash card is connected to my computer, it will show up in Source under Files down here, and it also shows up here under Devices. And I'm actually going to work with it from Devices. It doesn't matter. They both work essentially the same, except for that if you're working with devices, you can check this box to have it eject. For example, if this is a flash card, eject that card after the import is done. Moving to the center area, I can choose which photos I want to import or not, and then I can decide how I want to import them. These images are on a memory card, not on my computer, so it doesn't give me the option to move or add them. I don't need DNG copies of my images. That's not something I do. So I'll just do a regular copy. This will place the images on my computer and add them to my catalog, but it'll also leave them on the memory card in case something goes wrong during the import. I'll still have backups. Once the images are imported successfully to my computer and I've also backed them up, then I can delete them from that card. And now that we're downloading new images from a camera or a flash card, instead of just adding images that were already on the computer, the third column has a bunch of additional options. The file handling and apply during import choices are still the same. We also now have the ability to rename the files on import if you don't want to use the file numbers that the camera assigned to the images. And the most important is the destination tab. This is how you tell Lightroom where on your computer to put or download the new images. It's important to get this right, otherwise you can end up with images saved somewhere unexpected or in folders that don't make sense. The first thing I do is choose the hard drive and folder where the images will go. I'll talk about my folder system a little later, but I import new images into my Images to Edit folders. So I need to go find that. Right now we're looking on my C drive, and that folder is not located on the C drive, so I'm going to collapse that. That folder is actually located on my D drive. So I want to make sure that I'm in my D drive, and then I can go to Data Store. That's where I have this folder. And right here is my Photos to Edit folder. So that's where I want to download these to. So that's the one I'm going to select. As you can see, I still have images from 2011 that need to be edited, but these images are actually from 2016. Now I've already downloaded these into the 2016 Images to Edit folder, and I don't want to do that again. I'm just going to put them out here for this example. Now, why are they out here? Well, whichever folder you have selected, that is the folder under which they'll go. If I selected one of these subfolders, like this one, then it would put them inside that folder. But like I said, I don't want them to go there. I want them to just go into the main folder, and it's going to put them in dated folders right now. This one is the date that I took 10 images, And then on the next day, I took 111 images. So I can see all that right here. And the reason it's creating dated folders is because up here, I've got it set to organize them by date with this date format. So that's what we're seeing. I could also tell them just put it into one folder. So in that case, those images would just go into this folder, but I don't want them to just be loose inside this folder. I do want them organized by date, so I would do that. Or if I wanted to put them into a subfolder with a specific name, I could check this into a subfolder, and I could say, we'll just call this test. And what that'll do is create a test folder and put them in that new test folder. But again, I don't want to do any of that, so I'm going to uncheck into subfolder, and I'm going to go back to by date, and now it'll put them into those dated folders right there. If none of those folders were the correct folder, you could also use the little plus button right here to create an entirely new folder wherever you want it and send the images to that folder. So once I've done all that and verified very carefully that the images are going to the drive and the folder and the subfolders on that drive that are exactly where I want them to go, then I know I'm ready. But if I look down here and find that they're not going where I want them to go, then I need to keep working with this until I can be sure they are correct. People I see who get their folders and images kind of messed up, it's usually this step where it happens and they end up creating subfolders or new folders that they didn't want, or putting images into folders or hard drives where they didn't intend. So if I'm sure that all looks good, right here I can click Import, and it takes us back to the library module where we can see the images importing. The status bar shows us progress on the import and also on the building of image previews. If you need to abort the import, you can click on the X right here, and that will stop importing wherever it's at. But otherwise, you can just let the import continue. You can continue working in Lightroom while the import is happening in the background. And as soon as any of the newly imported images show up here in the library, you can begin working on those images while the other images are still importing. And if you're importing a lot of images, it can take quite a while to build all of the image previews. If you need to close Lightroom before the previews are done, and that's what this second bar is right here, showing the building of the previews. If you need to close Lightroom before the previews are done building, that's no problem. Lightroom will just pick up where you left off building the previews the next time you open it. So while the importing and preview building is going on, we can scroll down and continue to see new images as they keep getting added in. And again, if we go up to the top here, we can see here's the current import, 70. Oh, now we're up to 96. It's getting close. And if we go down in the folder list, we can see here are those new folders that the images are being added to. And if I want to, I can click on this folder to see which images were taken on that date. And I can click this folder to see which images were taken on this date. And let's watch as it finishes up here. I don't know how many more. Oh, I think 111. I think that was it. So now the import is complete. All the images have imported, and Lightroom is still just building standard previews. And like I said, if we closed Lightroom right now, it would just pick up building those previews when we came back. And that's it. The two main ways to add images to your catalog: either images that are already on your computer, just not in the catalog yet, or images that are on a camera or a flash card that need to be downloaded to your computer and added to the catalog at the same time. Once you have images in your catalog, the library module is where you manage them. On the left are ways to browse folders and create collections. In the middle is where you view images. And on the right, you can do keywording and view and edit image metadata. The top tab on the left gives you catalog information. After an import, Lightroom automatically selects previous import and shows you images that you just imported. All photographs will bring up every image in your catalog. And the numbers over here on the right tell you how many images are in each category. My other Lightroom Summit class is on syncing images with Creative Cloud, so you can watch that to find out what all synced photographs is all about. And I'll circle back to the quick collection in a minute when we talk about collections. In the Folders tab, you see all of the drives and folders of images you have added to your catalog. As we already saw, the drives and folders in the catalog mirror the ones that are on your computer. I have all of my images on my computer on my D drive in a few main folders. For example, the main photo collection folder, my photos to edit folder, and then a few other folders down here. If you don't see a folder here that you know is on your computer, that just means that you haven't added it to your catalog yet. Now, I don't claim that my system is anything special, but it seems to work for me. You're welcome to copy my system or keep your own system if you have one that works well for you. All of the images that I want in my catalog are kept on my data drive in my computer, so that's the only drive that you see here. I know a lot of people store images on external drives, and some people have quite a few of them. And you can add images to your catalog from multiple drives, and each one of those drives will show up here under folders. The two main places where I store my raw files and master images are in these two folders. Main Photo Collection has all my images that have been keyworded, rated, sorted, and edited. I categorize these folders by location or subject. And as we saw, I import all my new images into my Photos to Edit folder right here. I import images into folders based on the dates that the images were taken, not by a category or a location. The reason I have these two main folders is so I can keep track of which images I'm done with and which images I'm still working on. If there are images in a dated folder, I know I still need to do something with them, such as delete, sort, keyword, or develop. Once I've completed all of those jobs, then I move the images out of the dated folder up into categorized folders in the main photo collection. What I've found is that if I always leave images in dated folders, then it's impossible for me to find images and what folder they're in outside of Lightroom. On the other hand, if I immediately put images into categorized folders, then I never remember which ones I've worked on and which ones I haven't. So for better or worse, this is the system I use, and it generally works for me. I also have a bunch of other folders of images on my computer, but I don't put them in my Lightroom catalog. These folders contain copies of images that I make for various things like posting on social media, my website, or for making submissions, and these are not the raw files or the master files. I don't want a bunch of JPEG copies cluttering up my catalog, so I don't add them to the catalog. Every once in a while, I do add one of these folders of image copies for various reasons, so that's what these extra folders you see here are. Once images have been added to your Lightroom catalog, the golden rule is to only manage those images in the Lightroom catalog from then on. In Lightroom, you can do all the things that you would normally do with your images on your hard drive. You can make new folders and subfolders using the plus button right here next to folders. If you right-click on any folder, you can also create folders, rename folders, remove folders, and a bunch of other stuff. You can move folders to different places. So for example, I could take one of these folders that we just imported and move it from where it is up to any other of these folders, or I could even bring it up to my main folder collection if I wanted it in there. Wherever I drop it, that's where it'll go. And I could even move images and folders from one drive to another drive. You can also move individual images by clicking and dragging them, or groups of images by selecting a group and then clicking and dragging those. And you can then move images into any folder you want. For example, I just moved this folder up into my main photo collection, but let's say these 10 images, I realized, you know what, they can be down here in this other folder. For whatever reason, I don't need two separate folders for those two different days. So I'll just click and drag all of those 10 images and put them in this folder. And we can see those numbers update. And so now we're up to 121 images in this folder. and 0 images up in this folder. And now that this folder has no images in it, if I want to, I can right click and say remove that folder. And we saw that you can rename folders by right clicking on a folder and choosing rename. But if you want to rename an image, you just select an image and then come over here to the metadata tab. And right here under file name, you can change the name right there. It's important to understand that when you're doing these things here in the Lightroom catalog, that Lightroom is doing the exact same things or a mirror of these things to the actual images and folders on your hard drive. So as long as you do all of that type of image and folder management here in Lightroom, they also happen to the actual folders and images on your computer, everything stays in sync and Lightroom can keep track of where everything is. But if you do any of that stuff outside of Lightroom in Explorer or Finder, another piece of software, for example, then Lightroom doesn't know that you did it and the catalog loses track of where the actual photos or folders are. So that's why the golden rule of Lightroom is once images are in the catalog, always manage them from the catalog. But inevitably, we do sometimes end up moving or changing images outside of Lightroom. For example, if I go to my print files folder out here on my hard drive and realize that this 10 by 15 matted prints folder has a typo, it's got that little dash in front of it. So I come in here and in Explorer, fix that folder name. Then back here in the Lightroom catalog, if I come down to the print files folder that's here, now we can see that that 10 by 15 matted prints folder in the catalog is missing and Lightroom's confused. There's a little question mark there next to the folder. That means because I changed the folder name outside of Lightroom, now Lightroom doesn't know where it is. And if I click on that, what we'll see is that all of the images inside that folder have a little exclamation point also, which means that Lightroom doesn't know where those images are. If you get a folder with a question mark on it, it's no big deal. You just right click on it and say find missing folder. And then you can navigate to where that folder is. And tell Lightroom, here it is, and select that folder. Now Lightroom knows where the folder is, the question mark's gone, and all the exclamation points are gone on the images. So we've reconnected Lightroom with the folder and the images, but it would have been easier to just change the folder name here in Lightroom instead of out in my computer and avoid having to do all of that, because changing it in Lightroom would have also changed it on the computer at the same time. And if it isn't an entire folder that gets lost, for example, let's just say it's a single image. So I'm just going to put a 1 here in front of this image and say OK. Now Lightroom can't find just that single image. So all these images it knows, I only changed the name of that one, doesn't know I changed the name. So I can just click on the little exclamation point there and it would say, would you like to locate it? And I'll say, sure, let's locate it. And I can say, there it is right there. And we'll confirm that. And now it's updated. Sometimes a folder in Lightroom is completely missing an image or images that you know should really be there. It's not that there's a preview with a little exclamation point showing you that the image is just misplaced and needs to be located. There's no image at all. This happens quite often. We end up doing things outside of Lightroom, such as making new copies or versions of images and then saving them, and then we wonder why the images aren't showing up back here in Lightroom. If you think that images are just outright missing from a folder, well, all you need to do is right-click on that folder and go to Synchronize Folder. Lightroom will compare the folder in the catalog with the folder on your hard drive, and if no images are missing, it'll tell you that here. But if you go to a different folder, let's see, so let's try the Photo Cascadia folder and synchronize that folder. And it turns out that even though 1,300 images are in my catalog in that Photo Cascadia folder, there's another 1,500 that are not. So obviously I've been doing a lot of things in that Photo Cascadia folder outside of Lightroom, and there's now 1,500 images out there that aren't part of the catalog that I could synchronize. You can do all the things you need to do to manage your image collection here in the library module. If you do things outside of Lightroom, then Lightroom doesn't know you did it. But if you do them in Lightroom, Lightroom will do it here, and it'll take care of it out on your computer for you as well. I'm going to close the navigator now to give us a little more space over here. And now we're going to look at collections. Collections are another place where you can get confused about how Lightroom catalogs work. We know that everything up here in the folders is a mirror of actual drives, folders, and images on our computer. Collections are kind of like folders of images, but they only live here in the Lightroom catalog. They're not out there on our computer. Collections allow you to group any images that are in the Lightroom catalog together in any way you want without actually making any new folders or copies of images out on your hard drive. Collections can be really useful, and because they exist entirely inside the Lightroom catalog, they hardly take up any memory space. While the folders have to mirror what's actually on your computer, collections allow you to organize your images in all kinds of different ways that don't match your computer. For example, I make collections of images for presentations I do. In my luminosity mask presentation collection, there are 15 images. These images all live in different folders. Before my presentation, I found them one by one by going through my folders, and then I put them in this collection so they'd all be in this one place when I give the presentation. Because Lightroom is a catalog and we're looking at image previews, not actual images, you can put image previews in many different places without needing to make any copies of the images themselves. So all of these images in this collection are still back in the folders where they came from. They didn't move out of there, and they could show up in as many collections as I want. I could put the same images in multiple collections, and I can do that without making any new copies. You manage collections in a similar way to folders. You can use the plus button to create new collections. You can move collections around by dragging them. And you can put images into collections by dragging the images themselves. And you can grab images out of folders up here in the folder area. So if I went to, let's say, this folder and wanted to put one of these images into a collection, I could just drag it down to the collection I wanted to put it in. And let's see, I don't know. I'm just going to say, let's put it in here. And now that image is in this collection right there, but it's also still back in the folder I got it out of. Where was that? I think it was up here. Yeah, there it is. It's still here too. And you can even put images into a collection from another collection. So for example, if this image that I put in this collection, I also want to put it into this collection, I can drag it from here and add it to that collection. And now it's in here, but it's still in this collection too. You can remove images from a collection by right-clicking on it and selecting Remove from Collection. Removing images from a collection or removing an entire collection doesn't remove the images from the other collections, and also doesn't take it out of the Lightroom catalog folders or the actual folders out on your hard drive. And like I've said a couple times already, because collections use the same previews that are already in the Lightroom catalog, they don't need to make any new copies of anything, so they take up almost no additional memory. When you go to add a collection, you'll notice that there are different types of collections that you can create. There's normal collections, smart collections, and collection sets. These normal collections are the ones that you see down here with these look like little picture stack icons. These normal collections are almost like a folder in that you can put images in or you can take images out. Collection sets look like a little file box, and they're basically collections of collections. So for example, in my submissions collection set, we can see all of my different submission collections, and I even have some additional sets inside of that set. So in that way, they're kind of like folders and subfolders. When you create a new collection set, you get to name it. If you want to put it inside another collection set, you can. And then once you've got that empty collection set, you can put collections inside of it. And when you go to create a new collection, a normal collection, you also have the option to put it inside an existing collection set somewhere if you know where you want it to go. And you have some other options about how you create that collection. The third type of collection are called smart collections, and they're here if you're going to make a collection, but I have my smart collections here in this collection set, and smart collections have these little gears on the icon. Smart collections are what is known as dynamic collections because Lightroom is constantly changing what's in them based on certain criteria. I've placed all my smart collections inside this one collection set, but they don't have to be there. You can put them anywhere you like, just like any other collections. You can't take images in and out of smart collections like you can with regular collections. Instead, you set rules for which images will be included in a collection. For example, this smart collection has images in it that were all taken in the last month. Every day as images in this collection get older than a month, the collection will automatically change. And if I haven't taken any photos in the last month, this collection will be empty. This collection contains images that I've done work on in the last 2 days. This collection contains any images I give the keyword panorama to. And this one contains any images in my catalog that I've marked with either a red or yellow label. You set the rules for a collection when you make it. So for example, down here in my yearly favorites collection set, I've got my 2019 favorites and my 2020 favorites. And if we take a look, here's the 2019 favorites, and what that is all my red labeled images from the year 2019. Now, if I wanted to make a new smart collection for, let's say 2018, I would come down here to create smart collection. And I do want to put that in my yearly favorites set. And I want to, first of all, say that it's going to be from the date. And I want it to be in a date range. And that range is going to be from 2018, January 1st to 2018, December 31st. And I also want the color label to be red because those are my top images. So when I create that smart collection, and I didn't name it, so let me do that now. 2018 favorites. And Lightroom automatically put 117 images in that smart collection, and these are the 117 red labeled images from 2018. And if you made a smart collection already and you want to change the rules for a smart collection, you can right click on it and go to Edit Smart Collection and change the rules. And when you change the rules, the images in the collection will change to match those rules. The final kind of collection is a special one that we saw earlier. It's called a quick collection, and it's up here in the catalog tab right here. It's handy for when you need to make a quick collection of images, but you don't need to keep that collection after you're finished with it. The quick collection is always here. You can't move it or get rid of it, but other than that, it works like a normal collection. You can put images in and you can take images out anytime you want. If you notice, my quick collection has a plus symbol next to it. That lets me know that the quick collection is what's called the target collection. If you're in the simple grid view here with no information, you just need to first hit the J key until you bring up image information. We'll talk more about that later, but in this view or in this view, you'll see there's a little circle in the corner, upper right corner of each image. If you click that little circle, that will add it to whichever collection is the target collection. Another way that you can go is select an image and type the B key, and that will also automatically add it to the quick collection. So when you see a little darkened in circle on an image, you know that it's already part of whatever the current target collection is. So if I click on quick collection here, we'll see that those two images are in the quick collection. Any image that has a little circle in it, if you click the circle, that'll take it out of the target collection. And if you select it and type the B key, that will also take it out of whichever the target collection is. When you've made a quick collection of images and done whatever you wanted to do with them, you can right click on it, and that will allow you to clear the quick collection if you don't need those images in a collection anymore. Or if you decide that you've made this collection and you actually do want them in a permanent collection, you can also say save the quick collection, and it'll allow you to save it as a collection down in your collections. But I'm going to go ahead and clear the quick collection right now. The quick collection doesn't have to be the only target collection. You can only have one target collection at a time, but any collection that's not a smart collection can become the target collection. So for example, if I want to make two posts my target collection, I can right click on it and say set as target collection. And now the little plus is next to that collection and it's not next to quick collection. And so now any photographs that I either click the little circle button, or let's go down here a ways. If I select it and type B, then wherever those images are from, they will automatically show up in that two post collection. There's one of them, and I've got a lot of other things already in that collection, so now they're in there. I find it really fast to create a new collection, set it as the target collection, and then browse through my images, clicking the B key whenever I find one that I want to put in the collection. Now that we've covered the important stuff in the left column of the library module, let's look at the middle area. This is where we view our images. Most of the controls for viewing our images are right out here on screen where we can see them, or they can be done with keyboard shortcuts if you know them. But you can also find all of the viewing controls in the library menu and in the view menu, and it also lists the keyboard shortcuts there on the right. Down at the bottom of the view area is the toolbar. Sometimes the toolbar goes missing. This happens when we accidentally type a key on the keyboard that's used for hiding something in Lightroom. In the case of the toolbar, if you type the T key, that hides the toolbar. So if your toolbar is missing, you probably just need to type the T key and it'll come right back. The toolbar can be customized with different tools. This menu shows you all the tools that are available to put on the toolbar. And the ones with blue checks next to them are the ones that are on the toolbar. And the main ones that I have out there are the view modes, the sorting, the rotation, and that's it. Also, there's a thumbnail slider for changing the size of your thumbnails, and you can also change thumbnail size using the minus key to shrink the thumbnails, make them smaller, and use the equal key to increase or enlarge the size of the thumbnails. Like I said, these tools are just for rotating images. If I want to rotate them, don't need to do that much anymore since our cameras tend to rotate our images for us. And then this is for sorting. Whatever images are up here in your image view area, right now it's all my photographs. Whichever folder of images you happen to be looking at or collection, you can sort them. And then these right here, the view modes, are the most important part of the toolbar. We are currently looking at the grid view, which is this one right here. This one is the single image or loop view. So you see there in the little hover over that I can either click on that button and it'll take me to a single image, or I could have typed the E key. Another way to get into loop view is just by double clicking on any image. And then when you're in the loop view, you have the little magnifying glass. And so whatever you have set up here in the navigator as the zoom amount, when you click on the image, it'll zoom in that amount. So I have it set to 100%. So when I click once, I can zoom in to 100%. And then when I click again, I zoom back out. And you can pick different zoom amounts right over here. And when you're in the loop view, if you double click again, it'll take you back to grid view. We already saw that when you're in grid view, typing the J key will allow you to cycle through different image information sets. So this is the simple view, which has no information. It's just images. The next one has what image number it is in the current selection of images. This image is number 84,934 out of that many. And it also shows us if we've given them a star rating or a color label. But when we go to the next one, now we get some even additional information such as the file name and the pixel dimensions and what type of file it is. You also get these little badges, and if you don't know what they are, you can just hover over one and it'll tell you. For example, it tells us that this photo has keywords. And this badge tells us that this photo has been adjusted in the develop module. And let's see, here's another badge that tells us that this photo is in a collection. And if I click on that one, it'll actually show me which collection sets that image is part of. And if I click on one of those, it'll take me right to that collection. And if you're viewing an image in loop view, you can type the I key to get some information there as well. When you hit it the first time, you get the file name, the date and time the image was taken, and the pixel dimensions. And hitting I again gives you the camera settings and focal length and lens that the image was taken with. And then one more time, we go back to no information. In the next segment, we're going to look at the filter bar, which I just noticed happens to be missing. So I obviously hit the keyboard shortcut to hide my filter bar. I happen to know that that's the backslash key. So all I have to do is type the backslash key and my filter bar comes back. In the final segment of this class, let's look at one of the most powerful and useful aspects of the Lightroom catalog system and the library module. And that's the ability to quickly locate any photo, even if you have no idea where that photo might be. Lightroom can search and filter through your images based on a range of criteria. Some of the criteria are things that already exist with your images, such as the file name and the file type, as well as metadata from the camera, including the camera type, the lens, the date and time, and the camera settings. So all of those filtering criteria are great because they don't require any work on our part. They're already there. Other filtering criteria have to be entered by us, such as image ratings, color labels, and keywords. Entering these criteria takes some time and effort, but it's necessary if you really want to be able to locate any image within seconds. I don't know that there's necessarily one best rating and labeling and keywording system. Whatever system you find that works for you is great as long as you do it consistently. I'll show you my system because that works for me. I'm going to go down to the new images that we imported because I know none of this stuff has been done to those yet. The first thing is I'll come over to the keywording tab and add keywords. I don't add a lot of keywords, just a few that will help me narrow down the hunt. I'll begin by selecting all the images, which I can do with a Control or Command A, and then adding keywords that apply to all of them. So for example, in this set of images, which I took all on those 2 days up on the Rogue River, I know that I can put in here for all of them that they're all from Oregon, and Lightroom can suggest keywords if you've used them before. So all I did was type O and there comes Oregon. And then I can put a comma and then say it's also, I know the Rogue River, and there's Rogue River right there. And it's definitely in fall, and I know all of these images are going to have fall color. So I can go there. And when I think I have the keywords that fit the entire group of images, I hit enter and Lightroom will assign those keywords to every one of the images. And then I can start doing kind of smaller groups of images. For example, These 4 right here all have a bridge in them. So I'm going to put bridge in there. And knowing that this is fall color on the Rogue River in Oregon, that may be really all the keywords I need for most of these images. So in that way, I can usually keyword hundreds of images or more in just a few minutes. And once I have keywords on the images, then I go through and give star ratings. Lightroom gives us 1 through 5 stars that we can rate our images with. That's a lot of stars, and I don't get that picky. What I do is just rate images that I think are worth returning to. I just give them 1 star. So I'll just go through, and you can do this just with the 1 through 5 number keys on your keyboard. So for example, if I want to work on this image later, I want to come back to it, I'll give that 1 star. And let's say I think this is worth coming back to, I'll give that 1 star. And this one, and oh, I don't know. Let's see, maybe that one. So 1 star for the images I think I'm going to come back to. Once I have all of the images either with a star or no stars, I can come up to in the filter bar, which if you don't see it, type the / key and go to attributes and filter by single stars. So now I'm looking at just the images that have 1 star. So these are the images that I'd go into the develop module with and actually develop. Now, I haven't developed any of these images, but let's say I had. And then at that point, after I had developed them, I would look at them and decide, what do I think? And if it was one of my very best images ever, I give it a color label. And the color labels can be given with the keys 6 through 9. 6 is red, 7 is yellow, 8 is green, 9 is blue. And if I've given a color label and realize I don't want to have a color label anymore, for example, 9 made this blue, I can just type 9 again, and now it has no color label. And I really only use 2 color labels. I like to keep it simple. So if it's one of my top tier, my favorite best images, I give it a red color label. And if it's one of my second tier images, I give it a yellow color label, which is the 7 key. And if you don't want to have to remember which keys to use, down here in the toolbar, you can actually add the color labels and ratings. So if I do want to add color labels this way, I can click on that and then give it a color label with the button. But like I said, I prefer to use the keyboard. So my red label images are my top tier images. These are the ones that I might share on social media, and I might also add to the print collection on my website. The yellow label are the second tier images. They're not my very best, but they're still totally publishable. And that's it. That's my system. As long as I've done all those things, then I can locate any image out of all of my images within seconds using the library filter system. And here's how filters in Lightroom work. We know the filter bar is up here at the top. I'm going to go back to none, so we're not filtering. And you can filter any set of images. So I was just before filtering the images that were in this one folder. There was only 120 total images. You can filter any folder or set of folders, a folder with subfolders. If I filter my main photo collection, I'll be filtering through 88,000 images. If I instead just filter the landscape and nature folder, I'm down to filtering just through 26,000 images. And then, I could even pick any of my individual folders that are under the landscape nature. So you can really define where your search is and how many images you're having to filter through. But if you don't know where the image is at all, you can come up here to all photographs and select that. And now you'll be filtering every image that's in your catalog. So let's say that I do want to find an image that I know I took of a sunrise along the Deschutes River in Oregon in fall with really great aspen colors. And it's one of my favorite images, so I know it has a red label on it, but I have no idea where it is in my folders. So I'm going to start filtering in all photographs. I want to look through the entire catalog. And for this, I'm going to start with text. So I'll click the text filter. And then, actually, I don't want to just search any searchable field because that's all of my metadata. There's a lot of fields there. I actually just want to search for keywords. and I want these keywords to contain all. You can set different search rules, but in this case, I want it to contain all, and I know I was on the Deschutes River, so I'm just going to search for Deschutes. And all right, so immediately I come up with quite a few. In fact, if I look down here, 180 images that have the keyword Deschutes, and here they all are. All right, so I still haven't found it yet. I also know, like I said, that it was a red label image. It's one of my favorites, so I can come over here, and with the text filter still active, I can also open the attribute filter, and I don't want to search by star rating, so that was on from last time. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to search just for red images. All right, so now I've got a bunch of red images, and I see the image I'm looking for. It's one of these, but I'm not sure exactly which one of those yet. So I want to keep working with the filters a little bit more. Like I said, it was a sunrise, so maybe I can just come back up here to the keywords and see if maybe just by putting in sunrise, yeah, immediately that got rid of the ones that didn't have a sunrise in them. So now I'm really down to just that set of images. But again, I want my original master file of this image, not a copy or a print copy or anything like that. Well, I've got one here that's got this little page corner. I know that's a virtual copy. If I come over here to kind, I can go to master photos, and that'll just take out anything that's a virtual copy. I know I don't want to find a virtual copy in this case. I also know that my master files are saved as TIFF files. So under metadata filter here, I can come in. Actually, I don't want label. I want to go to file type. So I'm going to change this to file type and just look for TIFF files. And that got rid of a bunch of other file types. And I'm getting really close. Now, I have my information on, but if I had been in this view with no information, it's really hard to tell which one of those files is which. But I know that I have a naming structure for how I name my master files. And so if I hit J 2 times to bring up the file names, I can tell that this is a sized image. It's been sized with gigapixel AI up to 30 by 45. So that's not the original. This is a print file. This one looks like an iteration, but it's not the final one. I call my final ones either final or edit or something like that. So I know, looking at the names, that this is my original one. So out of all those images, I was able to use the library filter system and a combination of text, attributes, and metadata to find the exact image I was looking for in just a few seconds. Now, I still don't have any idea where the image actually is in my catalog or on my hard drive, but if I do want to know where it actually is, I can right-click on it, and this will show me if it's in any collections, which it is in a bunch of different collections. I can also find the folder that it is in my Lightroom catalog library, and I can also click this one, and it'll actually show me where it is in Explorer on the hard drive in my computer. And with that, I think we've covered everything we set out to do. We talked about the basics of what Lightroom catalogs are, how to import images into the catalog, how to manage and organize folders and images from within Lightroom, how to find and synchronize missing images if we need to, how to create and use different kinds of collections, ways to view images in the library module, and how to keyword rate and label images and quickly find them using the Lightroom filter system. So thanks for joining me. I hope you've picked up a tip or two. Before I go, I'll just mention that anyone interested in using Lightroom and Photoshop together, that Dave Cross's classes in the Lightroom Summit are all about how to do that, so give those a watch. And if you really want to take your Photoshop developing to the next level, I offer a wide range of Photoshop video courses, including Photoshop workflow, luminosity mask techniques, smart object techniques, the TK panel, and a lot more. You can find out all about them on my website. And my newsletter subscribers get discounts. One discount code allows you to download my 10 steps for getting started in Photoshop course for free. And the other one gives you a 15% discount on all of my tutorials and the TK panel. So get in touch if you have any questions. One more time, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again. Cheers.